Billy, I'm very excited about this next story because it is perfect debate fodder.
It is. And this is great because Jeff's been warming up his jazz hands.
Jazz hands. This gets into issues of free speech. It gets into issues of artistic freedom. It gets into issues of audience notification and expectation. All this coming from the city of Parker, the musical Shrek, and pride flags flying.
So you're saying there are layers.
Layers of this. I love a good debate.
Yeah, not like an onion, but like a cake. Because everybody loves cake.
I like that. Let's go back to the phone lines real quick before we get into this news story. Artis in Aurora. Good morning, Artis. Always good to see you.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. Back when I'm a retired nurse, and I worked at Children's years ago. I think it was in the 90s. I happened to find out that one of the nurses I worked with heard the guy doing the transition surgery with Dad. According to her, he had so many men come back to him and say, I wish I had never done this, that he quit doing them. So if a grown man can't make a decision, why do we think children can do that?
I do think that this will be a moment we look back in history and wondered what the heck were we doing, pushing these kids into life-altering surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you want to talk lawsuits, I mean, if you can sue over a cigarette you smoked 4 years ago, sue that company, and what did they know, and how were they promoting it, and all that stuff, I think you're going to see a lot of lawsuits coming against these hospitals and doctors, and you've got to be insane to want to do these types of surgeries. I do think it's evil. Artis, I appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks
so much.
I appreciate it. The other part, I've seen statistics that most of the people that do go through those surgeries and go through the medication, it's hardly ever go and have any regrets. I mean, it's more than like 95, 98% from last time that I see. It's not a large portion of them. But, I can see the point. I think that maybe some of the regret of some of these surgeries, etc., wouldn't exist if we would just accept them as who they are. But because we are so dependent upon appearance, and do you look that way or this way or not, then yeah. In fact, I saw, this is kind of a tangential issue, I saw a tongue-in-cheek editorial just yesterday. I forgot the newspaper, but it was not a U.S. paper. It was outside the U.S., but it was talking about young men right now going through a lot of plastic surgery to have certain facial structures that are deemed to be more attractive online as far as, going viral, etc. So these are totally hetero men getting a lot of facial structures, and the opinion article was, guys, it's a lot cheaper and easier to just be ugly. Just embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, that's been all of human history. We've embraced stupid things, whether it's like feet binding or women wearing those corsets that they would pass out or whatever they do. But
in the name of beauty,
for whatever reason, with transgenderism, you get this interesting dynamic of it is both permanent and fluid. If you don't embrace it, you're a bigot. If you criticize it, you're a bigot. And it, at that point, you just pointed out how crazy we can get as a culture sometimes in the name of beauty to alter our bodies.
Yeah, and if we would just accept that person, that even if they may not look exactly like what you think a woman should look like, or exactly what a man should look like, and you're not trying to sleep with them or do anything else, maybe it's okay to just deal with them that way. Maybe it doesn't matter your personal interactions with them based on whether or not they've had any surgery.
I feel like that's a bait and switch, Mr. Thorpe.
Yeah, in what way?
Because because this whole thing's been pushed on us. It started out as, hey, let's just, allow us to live our lives. Everything's going to be great. But now it's, you have to embrace it. You have to not only be nice to me, but you have to accept that I can change my gender, and those are questions of reality. So, anyways, this is going to be fascinating because this gets into our next conversation. Article in Westward over a rainbow flag being flown at Shrek, which is being put on in Parker right now. We are going to talk with the director coming up, which is going to be fascinating. So the debate will continue. You're not going to want to miss this. Now is time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good Wednesday morning, 26 with some clouds in Denver. Expecting a high of 52 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, 47, is warning Iran that a massive armada is heading its way. In a post this morning, Trump said the armada is moving quickly and is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. DJT said he hopes Iran will come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable nuclear deal.
Well, I just don't think they know how to read the room. 700 people showed up last year. The governor said no.
Colorado lefty nut jobs trying to bring back their garbage to dump on the good people of Colorado, pushing a new version of that ridiculous bill last year that's still insane now, Senate Bill 26018. Don't even think about misgendering someone. Shut your mouth or you're going to jail. Parents losing kids because they don't accept transgendering minors, all this garbage. You know what? When you're 18, you can do whatever you want. But kids, please. If you're having a dispute with your ex and you don't accept all this slop, you could lose custody. Representative Brandy Bradley, friend of the show, on with Jeff and Billy last hour, and she's doing God's work trying to fight this once again.
And so they're back. I think it's because we're fighting them in the court. So they're trying to engage in statute so that the courts can reference it. But we're going to fight it even harder. I mean, we are a unified front, and they don't understand. You know the song and dance, the little dog and pony show they did last year. They kept putting it off and putting it off. They make sure that we can't get the people there, so it's a last minute thing. And you know, people on my side have to work because we support our children, and they'll wait till the last minute. I think again this year, I'm sure they're having meetings with the governor. I'm sure the governor does not like this bill, and so they're trying to do whatever they can do to get this bill to move forward.
47 will launch his Trump account savings initiative for children today. Late last year, he said every American child born during his second term will receive a $1,000 government deposit to help start their account. The White House says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, rapper Nicki Minaj, and Senator Ted Cruz of Texas will be at the summit at the Andrew Mellon Auditorium in downtown D.C. Okay, I don't really need to see Nicki Minaj there, though. The Federal Reserve, what a fraud, will announce its first interest rate decision of the year today. It'll come at the conclusion of a two-day meeting of the Federal Open Market Committee. It's expected that the central bank will leave interest rates unchanged for the time being, with the next meeting in March. A man has been arrested after spraying an unknown substance on U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar during a Minneapolis town hall last night. The Minnesota Democratic pirate had just called for Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to resign before the man lunged at her. He apparently yelled, "You must resign," before security pulled him to the floor and removed him. The police said that Omar was not injured. DJT's border czar, Tom
She
Homan.
was feisty, by the way, though. Did you see that?
Yeah,
She jumped right
absolutely.
up.
She's ready to go, man.
She was ready to go.
Yes, they they know how to fight. She's been trained well.
She's feisty.
Fight. Tom Homan, he says his meetings with the governor of that wonderful state, it is a wonderful state, it's just these freaking lefty weirdos, and the mayor of the city were productive. Homan met with the two crooks on Tuesday after 47 sent him to the area to take charge of illegal immigration enforcement. DJT says Mayor Fry is playing with fire. Fry and fire, they go together if they don't enforce federal immigration laws. The riot porn continues today. A Russian drone attack on a passenger train in eastern Ukraine has left 5 people dead. Ukraine's prime minister says over 200 people were on the train when it was attacked Tuesday. President Zelensky is calling the drone strike an act of terrorism and says there's no military justification for killing civilians on the train. The Broncos have fired offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, along with receivers coach Kerry Colbert and cornerbacks coach Addison Lynch. Lombardi, he served under Sean Payton for 15 years, including their time in New Orleans with the Saints. Regardless of who is the next OC, Payton will continue to be the play caller. All right, we've got the Avalanche. The Avs locking up a key member of their defense with a long-term deal, signing defenseman Sam Malinsky to a 4-year extension. The Senators tonight take on the Avalanche. That is in Ottawa at 5:30. They drop the puck. Last night in the NBA, the Pistons over the Nuggets, 109-107. Nikola Jokic will be reevaluated in 1 week. Hopefully he comes back soon as he deals with his knee injury. 25 in Broomfield, 24 in Lakewood, 26 in Denver. You are waking up with Jeff and Billy on Hump Day. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Partly cloudy, mild. Temperatures reaching the low to mid-50s today. Cloudy tonight. Lows will be in the 20s. It'll be a touch cooler Thursday. There's a chance for a little bit of snow in the mountains tonight and tomorrow morning, but just cooler here along the Front Range with highs tomorrow 40s, 20s tomorrow night, 45 to 50 on Friday. The highs will be 50s for the weekend. Overnight lows in the 20s, and likely more of the same through Monday. The next chance of moisture will be Tuesday of next week. Meteorologist on day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Headline from Westward, over the rainbow, pride flags, too freaky for Parker. The town of Parker is facing public backlash after Parker Arts staff informed the creative team behind Shrek the Musical at the Pace Center that pride flags could no longer be used during one of the show's musical numbers, citing complaints received after opening weekend. According to multiple members of the production, the request was communicated on January 20th when representatives from the town of Parker, through arts arm Parker Arts, told the company that the pride flags used during the song Freak Flag were considered offensive by some audience members. Freak Flag, which appears late in the show, is a celebratory number about embracing differences and rejecting shame. I blocked it. with pride flags because that's what I think the song is about. This is Kelly McAllister, the director of Shrek the Musical and co-leader of Sasquatch Productions. It's about acceptance and who we are. To me, the rainbow flag is not a political flag. It's a flag of inclusion, love, and joy. I was dismayed and shocked that people were so angry about a beautiful moment in a show that I'm proud of. Rather than quietly altering the stage, the cast chose a different response. During the January 23rd performance, actor Becca Lynn Boaz broke the fourth wall just before the number. Standing on stage, she told the audience that the cast has been asked not to fly the flags. They had rehearsed and were previously approved. She then explained that the cast had met during intermission and collectively decided to perform the song as originally staged, pride flags included. The show's about inclusion, Boaz told the audience. It's a community about it is community and loving your neighbor, no matter what they look like or how they identify, respectively, as a cast, and peacefully, with fire in our eyes, protest this request, and this is our protest. We resist it. Videos have spread on social media. The controversy prompted an official statement from the town of Parker, which was sent to media outlets on January 24th and posted on Parker Art's Facebook page. In that statement, the town emphasized that it acts as a presenter, not a creative authority, for production staged at the Pace Center. Parker officials said they received a variety of complaints after opening weekend, but stressed they did not demand any changes to the show. What happened here? Well, we're honored to have joining us live in studio Kelly McAllister, the director of Shrek the Musical at Parker. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And he's jumping right in here, which is awesome.
Yeah, he was walked in during the intro there.
Yeah, and he's got the shirt. Yeah. Is that Sasquatch Productions, the shirt there?
Or it's not the official shirt, but I get a lot of Sasquatch presents from all my friends and people, and it's like, here you go. And I've always liked Bigfoot since I was a kid, so I love it.
That way you named your company
the problem is with the offices of Sasquatch Productions, you can't find them. It's hidden. That's
right.
Anywhere.
Are we there or not? We don't know.
Exactly. I have no idea.
Well, thank you for joining us. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. We're right, left, center discussion show. We're Denver's top talk radio show because we have discussions and debates. And I thought this was perfect for debate because you have free speech issues. You have artist creativity issues. You have the government. And I've sued the government over free speech stuff before.
Sure.
So I know what that's like. And then you have parental expectations. Was this fair to the parents to show up? All this right here in this issue. And I lived right near Parker. So I've seen this on social media as well. Yeah. Glad to have you here. So give us a rundown of what happened here. This is part of the program. And then I'm interested in the officials, the government's response here.
Sure. So my company, we are one of several companies that are allowed to bid on shows in Parker. The Pace Center is it's owned by the city. And so you have to go through all these different, hoops to get approved. We bid on the show, we got it. And basically, so we are subcontractors and we produce in association with Parker Arts, which runs the Pace Center. And so we're rehearsing the show and like you read in the statement, it's true, or the piece you were reading there that, I blocked the Freak Flag song. Which is pretty clear. I mean, they're all fairy tale creatures, and they've been kicked out of Duloc, just like in the movie, because they're undesirable for whatever reason, according to Lord Farquaad. And it's all told in metaphor and in story form, right? And at the end, they're singing the song "Let Your Freak Flag Fly," and they're waving flags. And said, "I'll just put rainbow flags up there," which to me are just like, hey, little kids, are just like they're rainbows. I think everybody likes rainbows, and of course they do symbolize, the pride flag as well. And we rehearsed it, we load in, and usually the week that you load in, everyone from Parker is there, that works at the Pace Center, and they're watching, and they'll give you, this scene needs a little bit more light, usual relationship with the producer where you're the creative entity, but they might say, could you tweak that or do that? That's standard operating procedure. So they come in, we get the show as is, we opening weekend, it goes awesomely. Some people call in and are like, we don't like that, for various reasons. Always happens. I'm sure your comment board gets people that are happy and not as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Part of the deal whenever
See it
you do
today.
anything in this world, first thing that happens in the world is someone says, this is so, and someone says, no, it's not. That's pretty much standard operating procedure. I always think of that scene in The History of the World Part 1, where the first artist makes the cave painting, and then the first art critic shows up and pees on the painting, which is crude but funny. So the show goes along, and then like Tuesday, the following week, I get a call from Parker Arts, and they say, listen, we're getting a lot of complaints, more than usual, and our show sponsor is getting a lot of flack, and they say they're going to pull out. Can you do something about that? Which was rough, because it's like the time usually to change things is when you're still in rehearsal. And so I called several people in the cast and crew who I love and trust, who are in the LGBT community, and they're just good people and my friends. And I said, because I'm not, I'm an ally, but I'm straight. I'm a straight white male, so it's like
You're the problem.
I am indeed. Well, although I did grow up in California, so I'm a commie pinko, But and we said, well, what could we do? I said, well, we could put other flags in there with it, maybe, have a representation of even more people, make it even more inclusive. And we all felt like that was a good solution. And we said, how about that? And they said, well, let's get back to you. We're going to talk to various people. And they got back to us the next day and said, you can have any flag, but if there is the pride flag, they're going to pull. And
Really?
yeah,
The city said that.
yes, they conveyed that information. Now they can't,
Okay.
and they didn't say you may or may not do anything, but it was pretty clear. When your mom says, you really want to do that? Go ahead. It's like, okay. And it was very difficult for me. I mean, I made the show I wanted to make, and if people don't like it, I can live with that. But then being told to change it after, or being suggested strongly to change it, or however you want to phrase it, it seemed clear what was going on. And so we said, well, maybe we could have just, little flags that have primary colors, and people can put two and two together if they wish. And the cast was upset. I think it was the any flag but that flag, which made people feel ostracized and singled out. And so the second week, and usually when you direct a show, once it's up, and you check in every now and then, but you go on and do other things in your lives. And the next week I had a kids show of Phantom Toll Booth with like fourth graders, and we're getting ready to go to Mathematics Land and all this stuff. And I'm getting all these calls Friday night. And the cast is really upset. My partner, I'm the left foot of Sasquatch, by the way, and I do most like the artistic stuff in the business side. Who also does artistic stuff is my partner, August. He's the right foot. I get messages from him and people in the cast, and my stage manager is like, we need to have a phone call right after the show tonight because things are going crazy. Okay. So I jump in my car, which is the show at the school I was doing the show at is over in Lowry area, so it's about a half-hour drive. But, kid shows are earlier, so I get there, it's already after intermission, but the freak flag number is like about the second to last big number in the show. So, and I have a text from the cast saying, we voted, we're doing it as is. I'm thinking, well, okay, let's see what happens. And we had told them, August had told them before the show, you're grown-ups, we don't pay you nearly enough to tell you what to do, so here's our alternative, you make your own decision. They did. Becca made the speech, and you could have heard a pin drop. It was crazy. It was one of the most intense nights of my life. Next to the night I got married, probably my favorite night of my life in some ways. And she gave the speech, and everyone's on stage. And I know that when you direct a show, you're kind of like the moral leader. And I felt like I was being I needed to be there for them, and the music, they hit this chord and the song goes, and I see Becca just pause for a moment, so I just yelled out, not even thinking, you got this, because I wanted them to know that I was there. And it was a tiny contribution, but I felt like I was doing what I could at that moment. And they sang the song, and people were ecstatic, and then the world blew up, and my phone has been just bing 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 ever since. And so that's, in a nutshell, basically how it went down. And then the next day, Carrie from Parker called and said, sponsor dropped, we're not dropping the show, you do it as you did it. Yeah. And that's been that.
So the city has said move forward as is.
That's right.
Okay, great. And but you did have a sponsor drop.
Yes.
Okay. And did that affect you guys financially?
It doesn't. I don't think it's going. It's not. It doesn't affect us financially. It affects the Parker Arts Center financially.
Yeah.
And I love working in Parker. I love it. I've been doing shows there for 10 years. Done Spam a lot and Sound of Music and everything in between. And it's just great. I love theater. It brings everybody together. You know, in our show, you know, we just have all different types of people. It's a place to come together and think about things and talk about things and celebrate being alive. But I hope I can work there again, but I don't know if they'd be like, hey, hire that guy. He makes problems for us, you know.
Well, he does draw attention. How's it affected your sales?
I think we lost ticket sales from some people, and we gained ticket sales from other people.
Do you think it's been kind of a wash?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I'm intrigued with all this because you're walking into a dynamic you don't know much about. It's like, you remember the old Hannity and Combs? So
I do.
I'm the kind of rock-ribbed social conservative. Billy's the more independent-minded. And we're Denver's top talk radio show because we have the right-left perspective here. But I've also had my own experience with the government. I sued the state when I was escorted out of the Senate gallery for wearing a Colorado Christian University pro-life sweatshirt.
Right.
And, you know, the notion of government speech and compelled speech and all that stuff. So I'm intrigued by that. But I'm also a social conservative who's had to stand with Jack Phillips, for instance, and dealt with U.S. Supreme Court battles between the LGBT community. And so for me, the pride flag is a political statement. And the only thing, so I'm glad the government is not forcing you guys to stop. I can stand myself there. But I also think it's fair to parents to be able to understand what they're walking into.
Sure.
I saw that there is a little notification on there about this, but I don't think it's really all that adequate. But you could tell me Shrek the musical may include themes based on current events and social issues. Contains some mature situations, themes, and intended for older youth audience. I'm sitting there going, what is that? Is there strippers? I don't know. Who knows? with that there. So here's my question to you. Do you feel that this was surprised upon parents? Maybe because you want parents like me that are Bible-believing, evangelicals, social conservatives, where if I saw that, I'd go, well, now, that's not something I support, and I've got my kids here, and that creates complications. So do you feel you were fair to parents?
I think so. I mean, I don't think it's overtly like saying, this is the gay pride flag. It is rainbow flags that we're in a fairy tale land, and they're just waving them in a song about waving your flag, literally for 20 seconds. And I've thought a lot about this. Is going to surprise. I've been thinking a lot about this in the last couple of days, and what flags mean and what symbols mean. And to me, I always, as from the political edge, which I didn't mean it to be political, but other than we accept everybody. But I grew up, you know, my mom taught me to respect everybody regardless of their beliefs. You know, as far as like what you say, it's like I may not believe in what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Always, that was just the way I was brought up. You know, and I always thought the flag meant inclusivity for everybody. It's all the colors of the rainbow, and it just says everybody's cool. You know, we might have different opinions. I mean, I have conservative members in my family, and I've always wanted to have a talk show like this with my brother-in-law because I love him to death. But we are polar opposites as far as politics go, but we love each other. We love going to movies and talking about superheroes and just all the usual stuff you talk about, right? And I think the conversations and shows like this are important because then it's just, we all have different views and we're all just talking about it. And as far as kids go, I don't feel that seeing a flag, you know, if you want to talk to your kids and say, what's that flag about, Mom? Oh, that's the pride flag. Or they can say, oh, that was a nice flag. Yeah, it was colorful, you know, and move on. You know, it doesn't overtly say anything, I don't think. Now, I know that some things are triggering, especially, and I think part of why it's happening right now is that I think we're living in very fraught times. And I think that everyone is on edge. I don't know anybody who's like, things are great. This is awesome. You know, and I think that added to the situation.
Bill Thorpe?
Yeah, that's Kelly
Questions?
McAllister, director of the Shrek the Musical in Parker, talking about the recent controversy that happened. That during one of the song performances, well, they brought out a pride flag, and it is a time in which the song is talking about inclusivity with a bunch of the fairy tale characters that have been exiled from Lord Farquaad's kingdom because they just don't fit in with what is considered to be regular. My base reaction to this is that... did the people know they were going to the theater? Because that's kind of the hub for much of the LGBTQ experience. The kids that are going through this process in high school to figure out who they are, that's normally the first acceptable group. That's part of the first group they feel normal. The first group that deals with them who they are, not judging them based on who they may be or who they want to see naked in the classroom, that just who they are and who they're performing. So the idea that you show up at a theater and go, what? Whoa, pride flags. Do you know that if you didn't have the LGBT community, 99.8% of the productions probably wouldn't get done? There's nobody doing costumes, nobody doing makeup, nobody doing sets. I mean, you're just not going to have enough people. That's the thing, is what do you think the experience is that you were going to? And I also question the individuals that felt that they were offended or there was some sort of an indoctrination message based on viewing a flag. If it was so easy to indoctrinate someone just by exposing them all the way to the flag, let's stop all this discussion about whether or not we put the 10 Commandments in classrooms. Just put the American flag there. That'd be the best way to indoctrinate all little skulls of mush into becoming the bestest possible Americans, if simple exposure to seeing the visual of a flag is enough to indoctrinate you. This, to me, is a bunch of people being butthurt over something they may or may not agree with and want to discount the people that are involved performing the very thing they paid to see. And if the parents, as Kelly outlined, if the parents didn't want to discuss what that flag meant, it's easy to obscure. As a parent, those obscure white lies happen all the time. See big guy in the red suit that comes around in December. So, things happen. That's the idea, is I can't figure it out. Now, Kelly, I don't want you to talk about which sponsor pulled out, but did you hear anything from the sponsor or from the venue? I love the fact that the venue said, we're going forward and going to continue the sales without the sponsor.
Well, that's because they would have ended up with a big First Amendment lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, they would have. But I bet it's easy. They could take that fight and say it's better for us to protect our sponsors, knowing the money will keep rolling in later, than the sponsors having to wonder what we're going to put on the stage, because you're going to have that donation discussion next time you come to them for anything. So did you hear anything about what the sponsor was mad about? And where I'm looking for is it we totally disagree with this presentation, or, listen, we're a sponsor that has to sell to people over here on the left and over here on the right, and we can't be involved in a situation. I always talk about car dealerships. They never take a political position because both Democrats and Republicans have to buy cars. So taking a political position would not be good for that particular sponsor. I'm not looking to name the sponsor, but did they give you any sense as to why they were pulled?
The sponsor, and I won't say who they are, but
no, I don't think it's fair to say who.
They and I didn't deal with it. We don't deal with anyone directly. It's all funneled through Parker, but was a religious organization, which just seems strange to take money in a government situation from any religious organization. I don't think it's what the founding fathers thought was cool, as I understood it growing up.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk a little bit about also the response of the actors and the people involved in the community, the production. It's because this is in some ways, I can see where it is viewed as an attack on who they are. Mm-hmm. And I go back to what we saw in the 80s and the 90s, where it was people saying, I'm okay with gay people, but do they have to be gay in front of me? And by that, they meant hold hands, kiss, or show affection. Yeah. The idea that you can't be gay in public. There was a big thing on Will and Grace as far as, gay love and kisses between same-sex partners. That was a huge deal. That was making national news. So what was the core reaction of the cast and that conversation about how they were going to deal with it? What were the emotions involved there?
Sorrow and betrayal.
Yeah.
These are my friends and they're people that I love and I've been working with. And I go in and to be told that your identity in that flag, as perceived by them, is not allowed, was crushing. And I think it was crushing because it was nothing new. When we first pulled out the flags at rehearsal, and I didn't tell them we were going to do it at first because I didn't know if we were going to do it or not, everybody was just so excited. And they said, "We're really doing this?" And I said, "Yeah, of course we are." I'm kind of a Pollyanna in some ways. And I just always think that I think everyone's going to be cool with everything and love each other. And I felt so good. And when we pulled them out in rehearsal, and I felt so bad when we had to do that.
Are there any other flags that fly, or is it just the pride flag?
It's just a pride flag. And that was the initial change was we could do other flags as well. And I was like, nope.
Yeah, and this is where I think there's an interesting dynamic here, guys, because I've often said Billy is what I would put as an old school progressive, a Berkeley free speecher like you.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm guessing, Kelly. I'm hearing from you when you said I will defend your free speech rights. I may disagree with you, but I will defend it to the death for your right to do that. Yeah. I think there's a change that's happened, and I'm going to talk from a conservative Christian perspective as somebody who's walked through now our 4th U.S. Supreme Court case around what I consider to be the same issue, is that progressives went from coexist bumper stickers to bake the cake, you bigot, which was once we got control, you do what we tell you to do or we will sue you into the ground. And you saw it with Jack Phillips now facing 5, 6, 7 years, nearly a decade of lawsuits over free speech expression. What was his ability to choose what he did and what he wanted to use his artistic talent for. So that shift that took place once we got control, for conservatives, the rainbow flag is not just allow us to live our lives the way we want to. It is a sign of oppression. It is a sign of we're going to force our agenda. And text messages are on either side of this, Kelly. I'll give you a chance to respond. We have people that are going, well, if you are so thin-skinned about this, you should probably hide your kids after a rainstorm because the rainbows might make them gay. To people going, this is indoctrination and grooming, and you want to force this upon kids. So in the midst of all this, what's your response to that?
Well, I think that there's always people, I think, on both sides that are at the far ends who are going to have extreme reactions that are unhelpful, that aren't, let's talk about this. And that's unfortunate. I think that who's in control shifts one way, shifts the other. I'm old enough now to have seen it roll back and forth a couple of times. I don't see it as indoctrination. It certainly isn't presented in my show that way. And I think a lot of times we all assume what's going on. And I guarantee you that 90% of the comments are people who haven't seen the show and don't know what they're talking about. And I'm sure that's true for Phillips, and I'm sure that's true when you were having problems. That I wish, and I've never been in a news cycle before, and it's fascinating to see what you've experienced and then how it's relayed and how different it is, and how all these different opposing views who are, it's like maybe 1% what they have seen or read, and then a lot of it is their preconceived ideas about what's going on, wherever they're coming from, and informing their opinion.
That's Kelly McAllister. Kelly is the director of Shrek the Musical, now at Parker. This is making all the news. It's been on Channel 9. It's been Westward. It's been the Gazette. Lots of people covering it.
It's gone viral.
Yeah, you can go to parkerarts.org, parkerarts.org, if you want to learn more about it. We'll continue. Man, we've gone hot on this one, and the text messages are very hot.
I can't keep up.
We'll do our best
trying
to keep up. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Billy's playing that for our guest this morning.
Yes.
Kelly McAllister's live in studio with us, director of Shrek the Musical. In Parker, it's making lots of news because it has walked right into the cultural fray, which is what I'm going to ask you about. If you missed any of the setup of what's happening, you can go back and listen to that at 710knus.com. But basically, there's a scene near the end where they fly pride flags in what's called the Freak Flag. And it's made a Freak Flag song, right? And it's made lots of headlines about whether or not this is appropriate. It's a kid's show. Were parents aware of this? The city stepping in, going, we'd like you to change. But then when there was pushback from the director and as well as the performers, they decided to allow it to move forward. So you have free speech, you have government intervention, and you have all the cultural issues. And Kelly, you mentioned you've done numerous shows with Parker. And Parker's generally a pretty conservative community, Douglas County conservative community. So how do you balance the audience base with your values, your progressive ideals, and make that all work?
Well, I always approach any project I'm working on. I don't want to come with an agenda of like, this is how I think it should be, right? I think that you try and tell a story as truthfully as you can. Yeah. And truth is always complicated. And if you direct or write or do something and with the agenda of these people are bad and these people are good, that's going to be a boring piece of theater because everybody has a side and everyone has an issue, right? So I try to approach it just and try to tell a story as truthfully as I can. And often, not always, clearly, people respond regardless of where they're coming from because they see, oh, these are people dealing with things, you know. I've done Sound of Music and awesome. One of my favorite all-time movies. My mom took me to that a million times when I was a kid. And people loved it. But some people would be like, oh, you know, they would get scared and stuff. But there were comments from that. We did Wizard of Oz and people got upset because they thought the Scarecrow was making fun of Jesus because when he's on the thing, which is strange, but true. But there's always going to be some people that complain, but I've never had I love the town of Parker. I think it's a great place. You can talk to anybody. It's often when you get into specific issues, people have different issues, but it's usually strangers. Once you start talking with anybody and you say, this is just how I come from and this is where you come from, I find there's a lot more mutual ground than is portrayed often.
And that's why you're willing to come in, which I appreciate. Kelly McAllister, director of Shrek the Musical. I don't want to put you on the spot regarding legal. You're not a lawyer, Supreme Court analyst or anything like that. But I'm intrigued because Jack Phillips's argument around baking the cake was rooted in artistic freedom. He said he didn't want to be compelled to use his artistic talent to design a cake. If the gay community wanted a brownie, he was happy to sell them a brownie. That was not a problem. But for him, cake design was a form of art. Would you support his right to use his artistic talent the direction he wants to, the same way the city of Parker's allowing you to use your artistic talent in the direction you want to?
Yeah, I mean, even more so. It's a private business.
Yeah.
That's it.
Interesting. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think anyone should ever be forced to do anything they don't want to do, other than, you know, comply by the law and not kill each other, because I think that's important, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, other than that, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing here? Is you know, and if it's not going to work and it's going to be a failure, then that will happen.
Right. I mean, there is a response so that people could just not buy tickets, right? If they don't like it, they don't have to go.
That's right.
Yeah. Interesting. Kelly McAllister, director of Shrek the Musical, Parker. You can get tickets for it if you like at parkerarts.org. Parkerarts.org. Billy, any final questions for our guest here?
You know, I found it interesting that some of the suggestions were the idea of we would just include other flags. Now, Kelly, we have not talked before, but there's part of me that would have loved to lean into the absurdity of that and had, you know, Sasquatch flags and all sorts of, you know, and that's the idea of making it as ridiculous as possible. But the other part of me is, okay, we'll do the Sasquatch flag, but maybe there's a rainbow in the flag. Maybe there's a, you know, that idea of, you know, expanding the brand to beyond just what you see as the pride flag, but different versions of it, etc. If you're mad at just this one, then we'll give you lots and lots of other ones. The question I want to ask is, what have you heard in and around. Now, chances are you're going to hear more of the positive than the negative. But what have you heard from the community, not the community inside the theater, but the external community? What has been the reaction to the story once this broke from people that are in either your social circle or just the community and Sasquatch Productions has seen on social media, emails, the like?
We all have, and I have heard from. It is unbelievable how many text messages, phone calls from people I don't know, posts on social media, old friends that I haven't spoken to in 20 years who are like, wow, that's amazing. Family, friends, very, very kind, very supporting, very giving people. What was amazing was that, like the Friday night when the show stopped and everyone stood up, this woman was in the row in front of me, and she turned around and she was crying. And she said, "Thank you. I've never felt so seen and heard." And she said, "Can I hug you?" I said, "Yeah." And I felt very proud to be alive at that moment, that I made someone feel good about themselves. And it's rare in this world. And I felt so bad that week dealing with this. And I felt that wherever my mom was, she would be ashamed of me, And I felt like maybe she felt good about me again, Because like I said, I'm a Pollyanna. I'm an Eagle Scout. And I believe that you are trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And the God I believe in loves all of their children. And it just made me feel really good that I made people who have felt ostracized feel good. And I also feel like the moment, as I want it to be taken, is that sometimes when you're a kid too, you are encouraged to do stupid things with your buddies. That's just part of the course of growing up.
I might have been one of the people suggesting that.
Oh, same, right? And maybe this is a way to say, hey, it is okay to talk with each other and listen to each other and take time for each other and have a little grace and kindness wherever you're coming from. But as far as the reaction goes, it has been monumental. It has been, I put on something on like Facebook and I'll get like 10 likes. I'm like, oh, I'm cool. Now it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And it's like, I did one article. I did this interview and I used some colorful language. I used the big bad word. And my wife is like, you really had to say that while you were talking to a reporter. I'm still in the doghouse for that. Yeah. So I feel that response most keenly. Good job, honey. No more swearing in public. Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
I love that. And I think for me, there's somewhat of an undercurrent of irony that exists in the individuals that are angry or upset on the performance during a song that is about including people based on the differences because they've been ostracized and representing and bringing out a flag of a group that has been, and I'm talking an overarching group, that has been ostracized primarily because of their differences. Yeah. And the group that is upset about it is saying, well, we just don't want to see it. We would prefer if we could continue the ostracization. That's what would make us comfortable. Now, looking at the idea of including everybody, missing the entire portion and presentation of that song and the message inside of that performance and that key moment inside of the theater just goes whoosh right over the head. That the entire message is accepting those individuals, even though they're fairy tale creatures, for their differences because they've been ostracized. And the solution for part of the people viewing that was, no, what I need to do is we need to reinforce what Lord Farquaad's doing, and we need to make sure they understand the ostracization and why they're there and why they're different.
Kelly McAllister, director of Shrek the Musical. Parker, we're up. We got 1 minute left. We'll give you the final word, sir.
I would just like to thank you both for having me here. I encourage everyone to come see this show. And we promise we're not going to indoctrinate anybody. We'll show you a good time that's about having fun and loving each other and sticking up for what's right.
There you go, parkerarts.org. If you want to get tickets, parkerarts.org. And if you're conservative who doesn't want to go, you don't have to do so. You have the freedom to do that. So that's part of the whole system and how it works. Give us a call if you want to join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader. We'll be right back. You're listening to 710 KNUS. I know, it's Wednesday. Deep breath.